Let me start off with a quick disclaimer here. I have intense nostalgia for this game that cannot be overcome by any means of my own being. This game is ingrained in my childhood memories, along with a handful of other Star Wars games. This one, though, is the one that I had the most special attachment to. 20 years later, my wife gets me this game for Christmas, and I feel like a kid all over again. I hadn't played it for probably more than 10 years back when I downloaded it through Steam or something like that, but it felt like nothing had changed. It wasn't any better or any worse, it was just strangely untouched by time. And that's something I noticed a good amount of Star Wars games have, a sense of timelessness that keeps them in their own little world or bubble. It's hard to explain, but I think it's easy enough to recognize. For example, other games like Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, Jedi Outcast, Jedi Academy, even older ones like Dark Forces and Jedi Knight, they all possess some of that Star Wars magic that keeps them from degrading over time. Oh, maybe that's just good game design, actually. On the other hand, there's definitely a few Star Wars games that haven't aged well in my opinion. Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace, Racer Revenge, just to name a couple. But in any case, when it comes to games from my childhood that stick around fondly in my memories, Episode 1 Racer is pretty much up there at the top of the list. I had an absolute blast playing through it again as an adult, basically 20 years later. The Switch version feels like a port of the PC version, but I could be wrong. I only played the Nintendo 64 version and arcade version a little bit, never enough to remember them, and especially not when comparing to the PC version. That was all we had for the longest time in my house in the late 90s, early 2000s. Just an old beige-colored PC with a blue Dell sticker that I constantly picked at, and a heavy-as-heck CRT monitor plopped right on top of the horizontal tower itself. I can't believe that thing never caved in with the weight of that dang CRT. As old as that PC was, the game ran like a dream. Solid frame rate, totally realistic graphics, never a hiccup. I can't really say the same for the Switch version though. While there's definitely a serious resolution upscale, a rock-solid frame rate, I encountered several bugs, not just in the graphics but also in the controls and in some of the elements and obstacles of the tracks. For example, the floating rocks in this passageway tend to trap you if you happen to crash into them and be holding the gas pedal when you respawn after the crash. I had to restart this race a few times before getting through this pass without crashing. Another strange issue I encountered was the controls. Sometimes you can only turn so far left before it stops you from turning anymore. Obviously, in a high-speed racing game with lots of twists and turns, this could be a real problem, but it never really lasted after a quick restart of the game, console, or controller. Any and all issues aside though, I find myself surprisingly immersed in this game again. I look at the awesome track design and I wonder, what is this place used for during the off-season of pod racing? Is it a city, a road, a backlot where underage kids shoot death sticks? It all has a sense of lived-inness which I really enjoy, and sometimes I'll get the urge just to wander the track and look around at all of the detail those designers crammed in here. I also get Mario Kart Wii vibes from this track for some reason. Speaking of vibes, there's something about this game that my brother mentioned that totally rang true for me as well. It's one of those few retro racing games I've played where there's no artificial catch-up mechanic for the opponent racers. Which means if you're good enough at the game, you can get so far ahead in the races that you'll either lap your opponents or just never see them again aside from the starting line. This can make for a totally different feeling experience of the game when you're just coasting through these awesome tracks, totally alone, just digging the design, the sounds, the music, and just the fun of exploring the tracks themselves. It's kind of a surreal experience, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. Everything said, I feel like I can't rate this game objectively, so I'm just going to leave you all with a final thought. Whenever you play games like this, games from your past, I think you can try to enjoy them in two different ways. First, for what they are. If it's still a good game, that's great. You can appreciate the game for what it is now that you have a more developed palate, and you know what you like and what you think is good. Secondly, you can appreciate the game for what it was, what it meant to you, and all those memories that you hold with it. I remember sneaking into the laundry room where the computer was with my brother way past our bedtimes just to play through a couple more races. The times we'd have friends come over and get to show them our new high scores and new tracks and new racers we'd unlocked. I remember how much my brother and I compared it to the movies and how we thought the tracks and characters would tie into the movies or books if they ever made more. Star Wars Racer will undoubtedly go down in my book as one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm really glad I got to play it again on a modern console. Before you go, do me this favor. Let me know what games from your childhood you still appreciate, both for what they are now and what they meant to you as a kid. Gamers always have the best stories, and I'd love to hear yours. Catch you later, folks.